And welcome everybody to our live stream. We are streaming live today to interact with you, the viewer. So whether you're viewing this live or you're viewing this in syndication, leave us a comment. Let us know what it is you want to talk about. We are free speech purists at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. As, hey, there are still these things known as constitutional amendments. Those things still exist on planet Earth. They didn't evaporate in the year 2015 or 2019 or anything like that, not even in 2022. So we want to hear from you, and we're going to leave you a couple minutes to allow some people to show up here. Here's one of our custom tracks, and I'll be back in a couple minutes. All right, so today we want to talk about literally anything we want to talk about. I will be bringing up Twitter and other economic concerns. So it should be interesting, and we're going to try to cut this one to like sub 1 hour. I guess that'll be sort of the goal here. So drop us a line. Let us know in the comments what it is you want to talk about. We will put your comments on the screen momentarily. In the meantime, let me pull up some additional information for you here. Here's a location we'd like you to check out. Of course, when you're not watching this particular video. And it is just a fantastic location to view Hawaiian volcanic activity. So if you haven't seen this channel before, we'd love it. And let me put my headset back on here for a minute and cut to that. And what you're seeing here is a live stream of the Halema Uma'u lava lake. So here's like an elevated view of it, and it's at a very high altitude. It's at like 10,000 feet of altitude above sea level. And yeah, it's only about 2:45 a.m. at the moment in Hawaii. Shout out to 2 pineapples. So as you may have noticed, there was an X-Class solar flare. Make sure you check out our other videos on the channel at smashomash.com. You can find links to our Smash Team site, which is kind of like Patreon, just with superior capabilities. Maybe become a member at the gold or silver Smash Team subscription level to gain additional content. We put up a post just this morning for only gold and silver members at smashomash.com/smashteam. It's just super good. And shout out to Smash staff. Give Smash staff a raise by joining at the silver or gold or perhaps gold annual paid up subscription level. All gold level Smash Team members will get a complimentary at smashomash.com email address. Most common names are still open. And unlike certain email providers, we don't read the body of your emails. We don't store metadata. We don't do any of that kind of stuff. We don't sell your information to a list or any nonsense like that. So cutting back to the closest star here, you may notice a little bit of a blast happening. That's the X 1.17 flare that we saw early this morning, and it was pretty interesting. And again, watch our space weather videos about this. Today's live stream isn't really about space weather. It's about whatever we want to talk about. So let's bring your comments up. Oh, shout out to Sugas Shenanigans. Yes. Happy Easter to you as well. Tschüss. So let's talk about Twitter for a moment from the perspective of finance. And this is a bit of a rabbit hole when it comes to this. And I just want to bring up their ticker symbol here, TWTR. And, you know, what we're talking about is Elon Musk and his tweets and his attempts to manipulate various financial instruments, such as Tesla stock, Dogecoin, Bitcoin, and, of course, Twitter stock. So the question that I have for all of you viewers is, where's the chart? That's the first thing. There we go. So there's the 1-year chart of Twitter. And let's go to the 1-month chart of Twitter. This spike you see right here, this is Elon Musk's offer to purchase the stock. It went from $39 a share to $49 a share. And that's pretty serious. Now, he only owns less than 10% of the company, which is not sufficient to really affect their policies, of course. In order to outrightly control a company through stock ownership, you need to own 50% of their capital stock plus 1 share. That would make you a controlling member of the company. And so anyway, the reason that I and most other people believe that this spike occurred is because people yearn for freedom of expression on the internet. Remember when that was a thing? When we were able to say whatever we wanted on live streams like this one? And now, perhaps not? Yeah. So, the real question you have to ask yourself is Twitter's board misleading its shareholders? There's a fiduciary responsibility for boards of giant companies that are worth billions of dollars. There's a fiduciary responsibility to uphold the best interests, the best financial interests of their shareholders, right? So look at the 1-year chart. Twitter just fallen off a cliff here, along with Facebook, I might add. And that was one that we called. If you follow us on Facebook, you may have seen posts about it. I don't know. But Facebook has been eating it. They've changed their name to Meta, as if that's going to somehow avoid responsibility for the pathetic censorship on their platform. But anyway, let's bring up the 1-year chart of Facebook. Ouch! That is bad news. And let us know in the comments if you would like to utilize the metaverse for your basic daily activities. Would you like to live in the metaverse, folks? Do you think that's a good idea? Let us know in the comments what you think. I mean, it seems like kind of a bad idea, really. A lot of people are unplugging. People are taking devices like this, and they're trading them in for flip phones all around the world. So at the same time that nearly all of the information ever known by mankind is available, at the same time, we're having people going, yeah, I have access to it. I just don't want it. I just want a regular phone that works. And I would just be stoked about that. So, and look, I don't blame them. I don't blame them. It's a logical response to the ridiculous censorship on the internet at the moment. So let me, I'm going to bring up a new tab here for you. And I'm going to let this track play and step away for just a quick moment. We'll bring up the GOES 16 SUVi. The last 2 hours of activity on El Sol, Helios, the local yellow dwarf, whatever you'd like to call it. And I'll put your comments back on the screen again here momentarily. And I'll be right back in a couple of minutes. All right, so what I'd like to say next, folks, is that our finest days lie ahead. So regardless of how bad things might seem, wherever you're located, don't pole vault the caldera. If you're going through hell, keep going. Another quote, I like this one from Einstein. I'm going to share this one with you as well. And the quote is, never memorize something you can look up. So this is some crucial advice from Albert, Mr. Einstein. And some of you may think Einstein was wrong or whatever. This video isn't to argue those points. But Einstein was largely right. So Sugas, thanks for noticing that track. A little bit of background on that one. That one's actually tied to Germany in a strange way that most viewers may not realize. That track was actually written for a girl because I had a German girlfriend for a brief period of time. I went on the longest and most reckless date ever, where I bought a ticket to Germany, and that was the craziest date ever because it required a transatlantic flight. So that's a little background on me that most of our viewers were probably not aware of. And that track was for that person, but it's, like any good piece of art, right? I'm a published poet, and what makes poetry poetry, right? The thing that makes a poem is its conciseness. So we use certain features of the language and the punctuation and so on in order to get the point across more concisely. You're compacting the language together. And that's the purpose of it. Any piece of art, whether it is a feature-length film or perhaps a virtual reality NFT piece of art, there is no limit, right? There's no limit to the medium. Whether it's a rock cut religious temple that's carved into the side of a mountain of living rock, or whether it's a pencil sketch on the back of a napkin at a restaurant. Ultimately, the point is the same. There is a certain connotation and a denotation, right? A denotation with respect to the English language is the definition of a word, right? However, in addition to the definition of the word, you have a connotation. So you have a denotation and a connotation. What does the word really mean, and how do you feel about it? Certain people have a completely different concept of, any given word. And of course, that's quite interesting. And that is sort of the realm that you're playing into when you start to mess around with word conciseness. Because the way that I react to the color blue, for example, may be completely different to the way somebody else does. So in the realm of like art critiques, people regularly use the blue color to denote sadness. Also, merit is one of the common connotations to the color blue, both because it's very rare in nature and because it's associated with the blue ribbon. The blue ribbon is typically the first place. It's almost like a gold medal in many respects. It's a sign of the color blue is often regarded as a sign of sort of financial power, right? Because it's difficult to make blue dyes. So with respect to ancient cultures and so on, again, because the color blue is very rare in nature, of course the sky is blue, but you don't see a lot of things that are colored blue. It's almost like black, actually. The color black largely doesn't exist in nature. The reason that modern military camouflage doesn't feature the color black is because when you view the color black through night vision equipment, it really stands out. Because most things in the natural world that appear black are just dark brown. So that's just a little bit about optics there, I guess. Anyway, check it out. The 335 angstroms is spectacular for this particular solar flare. This is, by the way, just the SDO activity for the day. And yeah, we've got to put out that track, You, Me, Us. We've got to put that track out on DistroKid. So if you do a search anywhere on the internet for Golden Cat Productions, you'll find our content. In fact, let's actually try this out. I haven't done this for a while, so this will do a DuckDuckGo search. So if you go to Golden Cat Productions, you'll find our Facebook page. There's a SoundCloud page. There's a SoundClick page. You can buy the music on Amazon. I'm not going to log into Amazon while live streaming for obvious reasons, but you can find the content all over the place. You, Me, Us is actually still available. You could actually purchase the track on the SoundClick page. So soundclick.com/Golden Cat Productions features it. There it is. It's called You, Me, Us. It's from 2009. 2009, I believe, is when that was created. I visited Deutschland in 2008 in December, and it was pretty interesting. I mean, I went to the High Point, which is sort of one of my many bucket list things, right? Let us know in the comments if you've gone into any high points. So the high points of countries, the high points of states in the U.S. are very interesting places. There's a place in Pennsylvania that you may want to visit. The high point of Pennsylvania is like 3,300 feet above sea level, somewhere around there. And it's called Mount Davis, Pennsylvania. It's part of a national forest. And what's interesting about national forests is that you can camp anywhere in a national forest free of charge if you just are a certain distance off of the trail and off of the road or something like that. So the High Point of Pennsylvania is a really cool spot for that purpose. It's a campground. The whole national forest is a campground. You can just go camp there. Garbage in, garbage out. You know, don't leave any trash laying around, and don't destroy the place, and you'll be good. Mount Davis, Pennsylvania. Let's show it on a map. The High Point of Pennsylvania, Mount Davis. Yes. Yes. Here it is on the Wikipedia. There is an observation tower up there. And that's where it's located. What? You don't put a mark on the map? Are you out of your mind? What is the deal? Yeah, the close this tool button doesn't work. You got to use the keyboard shortcut. What is up with that? Anyway, there's the view from the high point of the state in which Smash staff and I currently reside. Mount Davis, Pennsylvania. Altitude 3,213. So that's the high point. It's in a pretty desolate region. Let's find a better. Let's go to the actual. Oh, check it out. It's Open Maps. Anyway, that's where it's located. Sort of south of Somerset, Pennsylvania. I would imagine there are probably some great mountain bike trails around those areas. So come visit us. It's a quite fantastic state for natural features. And thanks for leaving comments, other viewers. We will put those on the screen momentarily here. In the meantime, let's get back to matters of economics. So going back to CNBC.com here, CNBC.com/markets. Speaking of Mark, hey Mark, what's up with Meta Platforms? Seems kind of bad. Check it out. CNBC.com has live coverage of the Paris-Roubaix cycling race. Holy cripes. That is just amazing. Anyway, let's put this huge crash of Meta, the name that Facebook renamed itself because they want to create a virtual universe for you and for whatever. I'm going to put the 6-month chart. Hey, get that crap off of my screen, yo. Jeez. Somebody's got to learn to code at one or two of these companies. It's shocking. It does not load. It probably doesn't like my Opera browser because it's got, privacy features. Big Tech doesn't like privacy features. Anyway, there are your comments. Thanks for dropping us a line. Sugas Shenanigans and Smash-O Staff and Pull My Finger and Troll McClure. Happy first spring full moon, otherwise known as Easter. It's actually the first Sunday following the spring full moon. So, but you were close. You got the basic idea. Pull My Finger states Mount Antero in 2017, 14.4 thousand feet. Lost my lunch, though, as I have lived below sea level for 30 years. Nice. Where do you live below sea level? In the Netherlands? Or perhaps Nolans? I can't remember because, well, I never commit things to memory that I can just look up. So, apparently Einstein understood the capacity of the human mind, right? I think that's pretty interesting. You know, Einstein doing most of his work in the early 1900s through like 1930 must have understood that the human mind is just way too much like a hard drive. Maybe he was aware of the fact that we're living in a simulation. Oh, no. Oh, my God, it's the Matrix. Let's take a look at the Paris-Roubaix. The Paris-Roubaix. Oh, it's an advertisement to watch it live. They're like, hey, watch live by subscribing to one of these services. Let me get that off the screen. So anyway, for those of you who don't know what the Paris-Roubaix is, the Paris-Roubaix is a crazy bike race. It's like 120 miles long or something. And it's a race from Paris, France to Roubaix, France. And it features several segments of cobblestones. So it typically has something like, 15 to 40 miles of cobbled roads. And so it's a crazy spring classic. It's one of the most revered spring classics. All of the riders who are like good off-road riders are always really stoked about the Paris-Roubaix. If I had to guess who I think's going to win, I would say Wout van Aert. Okay, Wout van Aert of Belgium is the baddest dude out there for one-day racing, and he's excellent at cyclocross, which is sort of an off-road / road composite sport. And cycling, it's a huge rabbit hole. If you'd ever like to go down it, just drop me a line, as I've been deep in the realm of cycling since 1999. And I became a public figure in 1997. That's part of the reason why I have certain characteristics when it comes to posting stuff online. It's because I understand the implications of being a public figure. So let's take a look real quick here at some additional financial attributes and ignore companies like Facebook, aka Meta, or Meta, aka Facebook, and just take a look at some commodities. So let's check gold prices, something we typically do on our YouTube live streams. And it's pretty pricey indeed. It made it all the way up to $2,043 per ounce there. Support level looks like it's around maybe 1,900, something like that. And yeah, no comment. All I can say is this. The US dollar is not weaker than other fiat currencies. The US is still the best place to invest. So whatever. I mean, if you're worried about inflation, everybody's worried about inflation. But the thing is, other world currencies are worse than the US dollar. So you can expect more inflation in the euro, more inflation in the yen, more inflation in the yuan than the US dollar, because it's a better place to invest. Regardless of how Banana Republic-esque it becomes, it's still the best place to invest. It's still the freest place, despite all kinds of nonsense with requirements to do this and requirements to do that and requirements not to do this and requirements not to do that. This has just been a common concern that, I've sort of noticed in my personal life for years. people are constantly saying, Danny did this, Danny did that, Danny didn't do this, Danny didn't do that, without knowing anything about why I did or didn't do what I did or didn't do. So, I mean, what can you say? What can you say, folks? Do you have priorities in life? We certainly hope you do. And we certainly hope you're having a delightful Easter. I got to play up some more music here and put some more interesting screensavers on your screen. Let's play, what shall we play? Let's play something else that's chill. This one was written for Smash staff, actually. It's called Molybdenum 99. It has to do with a nickname that goes back years, and I don't even fully understand what's up with it myself. Let's put some interesting graphics back on the screen as well. We're going to get rid of this financial stuff. By the way, silver's at $25.85 per ounce. And it did experience a spike at around the same time as gold. There's a quick view of that. That's a silver 1-year chart. Anyway, this track is called Molybdenum 99. You can find this one in various spots on the internet as well. Again, we'll get back to your chats in a minute here. I'm just going to play this track. I'll be back in less than 4 minutes. I'm going to bring up some more solar imagery for you. And let's do we're going to do a 48-hour video here. In, how about, let's do 171 angstroms, the house favorite. Again, this track is called Molybdenum 99, named for both Smash staff and for the isotopic state of molybdenum. Molybdenum's an interesting metal in that it is used as structural steel additives. It helps to make structural... In other words, molybdenum is involved in all these theories that planes didn't take down the Twin Towers. If that didn't add some controversy to the video, I don't know what will. And I'll be back in a few minutes. Here's Molybdenum 99. And let's hike the volume and bring up the sun. I'm back just in time, just in time. So let's put your comments back on the screen here. Thanks everybody for leaving comments. We'll scroll down through and I will address anything that you've brought to my attention. By the way, pull my finger. What are you hunting this wabbit season? And what are you using as your mechanism by which to hunt said wabbit? In other words, what's the wabbit and what's the tool? Are you using an adlatl? Are you using a club? Bare hands? And happy Easter to you indeed. Again, the first full moon after the spring equinox. The first Sunday after the first full moon of the spring equinox. Yes. Yes. It's a means by which people remember a date when it's not a specific date. I guess the day after the Sabbath is ultimately what it comes down to because of the Jewish tradition and Saturday and so on, Seder meals, all this sort of stuff. So that's great. Mount Antero. I don't know where that's located, but I've been in view of Flagstaff, Arizona. Mount Humphrey is the high point of Arizona. That is definitely on the bucket list because I saw that mountain from hundreds of miles away as I drove west from Allentown to San Diego back in 1998. So Mount Humphrey is it's an extremely good high point of a state to go to. So the high point of the state of Arizona is super interesting in that it's a giant mountain, and it also represents the barrier between the high country and the Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner style desert. It's the gateway between the high plains of central Arizona and a crazy desert. So there's a 26-mile descent just west of Flagstaff while you're going west, or if you prefer to go up that on a bike, it's a 26-mile ascent. Yeah, so that's on the bucket list also, to ride the bike up that and then go all the way up to the top of Mount Humphrey. What's cool about Mount Humphrey is that, or Humphrey's Peak, I believe it's called, Humphrey's Peak, is that you go up the second highest point in the state before you go to the high point. So you get a great view of the high point from the second highest point. And I think it's like a 4-mile hike from the parking lot. It's very easy. It's just lovely grasslands. It's, you're well above the tree line, but it's not any sort of a technical ascent. You're just walking up a simple trail. It's not super steep or anything like that. Humphrey's Peak, Arizona, highly recommended. I'll be visiting it in the next couple of years. Newcastle, Australia. Yes. What part of Australia is that? I would be interested to know, as I've got a pal in northeastern Australia who I've been talking to for years. I don't know how we started speaking, probably just on the YouTube videos or something like that. I think that it's ridiculous for Twitter to not sell the company at such a high price, and of course that's why the bid was made at such a high price, because it was designed to provide a massive benefit to shareholders who own massive portions of the company and are fiduciarily responsible for the inner workings of the company. It represents a line in the sand where you can decide to sell off because Twitter's ridiculous ideological concepts are going to change and they're going to become free speech purists. I mean, what would you want? Would you want, seriously, who out there is saying, I don't want to be a free speech purist. I want to control what you say. Like, why would that be a thing? Don't we all have access to the internet? Hello, this video is on the internet. If we all have access to the internet, why is it such a big deal if somebody allegedly states misinformation? Is it because that helps to erode the disinformation? Is that the reason for the censorship? I couldn't possibly guess. What could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? You know, I like to think things through to their logical conclusion. So I don't know about you, but I have a certain pragmatic inability to accept nonsense because accountability always comes, doesn't it? That was a temporary rant for your personal amusement. All right, I don't know how I got on that tip, but that is certainly a thing that is all too true. Side note, what could possibly go wrong is you could end up in court losing. That's what could go wrong. All right, so Arizona is far from flat. If you drive across Arizona from east to west, it gets higher and higher and higher for hundreds of miles, and then it drops off of a giant shelf. So just, the southern part of the state, if you go from east to west, you go from like 5,000 feet of altitude to like 8,500 feet of altitude. And then after Flagstaff, you go down to, I think, like 1,000 feet of altitude. So it's quite an interesting place, to say the least. And if you've never drove across the U.S., if you've never driven across the entire country, let me just share some facts with you. The planet's very big. If you think North America is overpopulated in any way, drive across the U.S. If you're in a different country, come over, pick one of the coasts, and drive to the other coast. Make that your mission. It'll take you like 5 days. It's not a big deal. And you will really have an understanding of how desolate portions of the planet are. If you think the U.S. is just teeming with people are all just shoved into a little space, that is the case in like 1%, probably less than 1% of the total geographic area. Because those highly dense population regions, those are in only the cities. That's it. There's a classification. We call them cities. If it's a borough, or if it's a village, or if it's a town, it's not a city. That's why we have classifications of different sizes of municipal regions. So, anyway. All right, I digress. Back to your comments. No, Arizona is not flat. And if you drive east to west across New Mexico, that's an uphill the whole way also. You start at, 1,500 feet above sea level, and you end at 5,500 feet above sea level. From 1,500 feet above sea level to 5,500 feet above sea level. All the towns, look at the elevation of the different cities in southern New Mexico and Arizona. They're all, it's the high plains. So anyway, yeah, cheers. That's the way it is. Fortunately, when I did this drive, I was a bike racer, so I paid attention, and it's quite strange. You get some great vistas in south central Arizona, to say the least. The high plains they'll make you want to become a high plains drifter. It's just spectacular. Now, if you have trouble breathing, then it could be an issue, right? Because when you're at 8,000 feet of altitude, let me share this little anecdote. We stayed at this place in Arizona. I think it was near Grants, I want to say. And I think the city hall in the town that we were staying in that night was at 8,500 feet of altitude. Just let that sink in. What's your Bueller? What's your altitude right now? Entire towns in south central Arizona are at like 8,000 plus feet of altitude. 8,000 plus feet of altitude. So, if you think the air is thin in Denver, it's much thinner in these places. And, knowing that this would have nearly immediate effects, I decided to go anaerobic after eating at a diner. So we checked into a hotel while driving across the country. Checked into a hotel in this city, in this town. It had almost entirely a Native American population, or original Americans, or whatever they're called this week. When we went to the diner, we were the only white people in the whole diner. Everybody else was of original American origin. Clearly, it was super obvious to me, and nothing happened, right? It was just kind of weird because I felt like I was caught out. Anyway, when we left the diner, I decided to do a sprint, maybe like a 50-yard sprint, because I wanted to see when I went anaerobic at full sprint what that would do at that altitude, right? Because I was a bike racer. I still am a bike racer, but at the time I was an aspiring mountain bike racer. This was 1998. I did the cross-country mountain bike. That's how I got my start in bike racing. I wanted the technical skills, so I became a mountain bike racer before switching to road and track. And so I decided to go anaerobic and do a sprint. And what happened was I ran right into a chain link fence. So if that gives you any indication as to if there was hypoxia and what it did. Hypoxia is a lack of oxygen, or a low levels of oxygen. That was what it did. I was not acclimated to the altitude, having been from a place that's at 400 feet of altitude. I was now at a place with 8,500 feet of altitude. Went from 400 feet to 8,500 feet. And I couldn't see the fence, so I just ran right into it. It stopped me dead in my tracks. I didn't really take any damage. I mean, it's sort of flexible. I think I had like a little tiny cut on my lip or something like that, because the whole front of me just went wham right into the chain link fence. And I think my mom thought it was funny. I sort of thought it was funny after the fact, but I was horrified because when you're not used to running into a chain link fence, it's not the best. There are things that might be preferable. It was rather uncomfortable, but it didn't do any actual damage. The fence just caught me and it flexed a bit and it was fine. But that's the kind of thing that you can expect to happen. Vision loss. The area was well lit. There was a street light right by where that fence was. It was just that I didn't see it for a series of reasons. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't see the fence posts or the fence itself, and I just ran right into it at full sprint. It was right after I turned on the turbo boosters too. So how when you're sprinting and you reach top speed, if you're like a real sprinter, you have a little like a sixth gear that you can put it into and just have a little tiny boost. It was right after I turned on turbo boost, right into the fence. So it was interesting, as is driving across the U.S., because it's gigantic. Wow, we got a lot of comments here. Let me get back to those before we close out this stream. We've got to stop. I don't know how long this thing's been going on, but it seems like a while. Yeah, I mean, folks, the reason that censorship is dead is because the answer to bad ideas is better ideas. You don't shut the person up. You ask the person questions that cause them to answer their reasons for having such bad ideas. By the way, here's a really bad idea. I'll see you in court, which brings me to one of my favorite personal quotes. Let's do it. If somebody says, I'll see you in court, you know what the ultimate response is? I'm going to share it only with you YouTube people. The ultimate response is, I hope you bring a photograph. See what I'm saying? Because if you're sending legal representation instead of appearing in court, then they better bring a photo of you if they expect to see you in court, because you won't be there, but they will, which is just hilarious, and I love it. All right. So SV Thora Sailing says, when is the bottom of this cycle for the market? 7 years cycle, right? Some of these companies have probably already bottomed out, but it's a mixed market. I mean, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about commodities? Are we talking about currencies? Are we talking about bonds? Are we talking about interest rates? Are we talking about your average stock like the S&P 500? There's a lot of different things that equal the market. The real estate market figures in. It all figures in. And different commodities are experiencing different issues, and they're largely induced by bad decisions made by mankind. So, if the market is crashed because of bad decisions, that's much better than if the market is crashed because of actual shortages. So are there shortages of natural resources? Not in the slightest. There just aren't. Are there problems with processing and logistics and all kinds of stuff like that? Absolutely. They're all human-induced. They're all induced by bad decisions and ridiculous responses to things that aren't that serious, but when treated like they are serious, become serious because of the response, not because of the actual phenomenon. So I'm a pragmatist, folks. I'm a pragmatist. I started riding a skateboard in 1983. I didn't start racing a bike until 1997. I took Taekwondo in about 1984 through 1986 or so. And that was when I realized that there are a lot of people that are much better than me at certain things. What are you good at? Let us know in the comments. And I'm getting to the bottom of this, all right? I'm going on any rants that are appropriate as responses. So yeah, and by the way, Elon Musk is not going to fix free speech. All that will happen is if Elon Musk takes over Twitter, if he purchases Twitter, and he brings Donald Trump back, first of all, what's going to happen is Trump is going to be like, I don't need to go back to Twitter, okay? Twitter's a bunch of losers. We created our own social media. We don't need Twitter. We've been on Gab the whole time, okay? Twitter is made in China, and our own sites are made right here in the USA, okay? Elon Musk is not going to fix Twitter. And if he does fix Twitter, guess what's going to happen? It's going to get delisted from the App Store and the Play Store. So the Google Android Play Store will be like, we're not carrying the app anymore because it's not good enough. It doesn't work well enough. And by the way, if you are using apps for everything, let me give you a word of advice. It's very simple. Use your browser instead of the app. Certain things you can't get. I understand you're going to say Spotify. I can't view Spotify using a web page. I have to use the app. Okay, fine. Some things you must have the app. But all of the things that you don't need the app for, why do you want the spyware on your device? It's the dumbest idea. Apps are crap. So I don't know if you're aware of this or not. Look, I use the YouTube app, and it's crap. All right? I run a channel. We're monetized. We're pushing 2,500 subscribers. It's pathetic, but it's a monetized channel nonetheless. And that induces us to do certain things and not do other things, right? And I don't know. I don't know what the point I was trying to make was. But the point is, censorship has not led anywhere good in the history of mankind. The answer to bad ideas is better ideas, not silencing the person who's got bad ideas. Silencing the person who has bad ideas is a bad idea, like bad ideas themselves. Isn't that interesting? So anyway, yeah, that's about it. Let me put your chats back up here. If you've got anything else to comment on that you'd like me to rant about, let me know in the comments. I will cover it, perhaps. Oh, and let me bring up my problems with Elon Musk. All right, so Elon Musk has done lots of good things and lots of dumb things, and they've basically balanced out. I'm not going to worry about the name of his kids or anything like that. I could care less about any of that. I'm a pragmatist. I care about things that are relevant. So becoming a private spacefaring organization, that is definitely a good thing. All right, landing rockets in this vertical rocket landing thing, like something you'd see in a sci-fi film, but doing it in reality, that's pretty serious. That's quite good. The attempts to manipulate Tesla stock and Twitter stock, some of which are successful, some of which are not successful. The attempts to try to manipulate cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Dogecoin and whatever else other NFTs and other insane things that people are trying to manipulate on the internet. Not good. Not good. Building tunnels underneath LA in order to divert traffic and have more traffic corridors and stuff that are just underground. That's good. Trying to eliminate censorship, that's good. But trying to manipulate financial instruments worth billions and billions of dollars is bad. Because one should tell the truth and not lie by suggesting that this thing is more important than that thing, right? I mean, that there are various different kinds of untruths, right? Some of them are just exaggerations. You're trying to induce somebody to do something by sort of just bending the truth. And other things are outright lies. And that's a problem, right? You shouldn't be engaged in outright lies because accountability always comes. Good luck avoiding it if you think that you're able to avoid liability for your own lies. Good luck. Never try to gaslight somebody who has a better memory than you. So the bottom of the cycle, I think we already saw the bottom of the cycle a few years ago. But, right now the argument's going on. Are we at the bottom of the cycle? I think the bottom of the cycle already occurred. And I think there's a lot of inflation and speculative assets that are worthless that people are paying a lot of money for. That's what I think. I think we're at the bottom of the cycle of credibility. We're at the top of the cycle of propaganda. I think we're a little bit beyond that now. I think the propaganda is largely ended because most people stopped believing nonsense sometime at the end of last year. But some people continue to believe nonsense well into 2021. Molybdenum 99, a radioisotopic version of molybdenum, is what the song is named for. And I found that by accident. It was just arbitrary. Yeah, because we have a base 10 counting system. All right, what else do we have here? What investment company were you robbed by? In fact, maybe you shouldn't tell me because I may have to report any sort of fraud. Yeah, I'm about to become licensed in the realm of financial services. I'll tell you more on that later, and I will not put the moron into more on that later. I find it impossible to be one of those. I've had a lot of training on what not to do. Raycar, are you asking me if I think there are any planets inside the sun? The answer is no. I don't think there are any planets inside the sun. Why wouldn't ancient people worship the sun? I see the reasoning. They probably realize that it makes plants grow and things. Seems kind of sensible when you think about ancient religions. Troy McClure says, best to invest in yourself, like growing food that pays you hundreds of % each year. I completely agree. There's a lot of free energy coming from the sky. It's not only for solar panels, it's also for you to grow potatoes and red beets and all kinds of yummy stuff to put in a root vegetable stew. Let us know your recipes in the comments. If you have an air fryer, what are you making today? We might have to make something in there. Maybe some fried onions or something. Oh, it's so good. If you have an air fryer, let us know what your favorite thing to make is in the air fryer. I think currently my favorite thing to make is a beef roast. Yeah, good idea, Troll McClure. Investing in growing stuff. You know, we've been growing all kinds of plants indoors over the wintertime. We had tomatoes growing. That'll be a thing that we'll do videos on in the future. Yeah, growing tomatoes indoors and other vegetables and fruits and basically anything. I mean, if you create the correct sort of artificial environment indoors, plants don't care. Plants love to grow and do their normal planty things. Even if the weather outside is crap, you can create the environment to grow whatever you want indoors through a variety of different techniques. It's quite spectacular. All right, I'm trying to end the stream here. I'm going to play some parting music and try to get through the rest of your comments. Here is our parting music. This one is called... It's too short. This one is called... We can't play that. That's a... We can't use that. Smash Staff, get your head out of your you-know-what and get a better track. Perfect. All right, we'll play that. All right, I'm getting back to your comments, I promise. Just give me a minute here. We've got a volume adjustment. All right. So here are your chats once again. Again, the purpose of this live stream was to be interactive. Dag, you're actually hunting rabbits with a bow and arrow for real? That's ballin', man. I mean, I think I could hang. I've got some pretty good techniques and some pretty good camouflage. Little known fact, I'm a collector of military camouflage. So if you ever see me wearing military camouflage, I'm not pretending like I was in the military. But, you know, I've got Swiss Alpenfloge, for example. And it's not because of stolen valor. That's not the issue. The issue is that I find military camouflage to be fascinating. It's sort of an evolution of mankind, right? Artificially becoming camouflaged. Some very sophisticated animals have some very sophisticated camouflage. And let's just say mankind is approaching those levels once again. Have you heard of active camouflage? Which takes imagery of what's on the other side of you and portrays it on the opposite side of where the cameras are? Yeah, it's pretty serious. You ever seen Predator, the movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, featuring an alien that has some kind of weird camouflage? It's a reality nowadays. Don't mess with people that have access to stuff that you don't understand, because you'll have a bad day. You'll realize you made life decisions that are terrible life decisions far too late. Geez, hunting bunnies with a bow and arrow is pretty gangsta when you think of it. I'm trying to get through your comments. I keep getting skips. For some reason, the software doesn't scroll properly or something. I apologize for that. I have no idea. It's not like I wrote the code. All right. What else do we have? Brisbane to Cairns. Is that an epic drive? I couldn't imagine. Troll McClure, the planet is not overpopulated. Period. I mean, the planet could withstand billions of more people than it has. The idea that natural resources are even stretched is just ridiculous. The problem is that resources are not appropriately handled. Resources are handled in an extremely irresponsible fashion. If resources were handled in a more, I should say, less centralized fashion, resources would be much more efficient. Resources should be managed from the ground up, not from the top down, because the people that are working the fields know more about what's going on in the fields than Joe Biden. All right, let me continue on. Mount Everest is 29. Yeah. Hey, it's Freakwinessa. Haven't seen you for a while there, Freakwinessa. I don't know. I don't know about Musk creating his own platform. I think there's been so much platform creation that people are sick of it. We need to fix the existing vestiges of technology, not attempt to. In other words, Facebook has to fix its software. YouTube has to fix its software. Twitter has to fix its software. Apple, etc. They have to fix their software. That is the only acceptable. Dear Big Tech, we demand that you fix your software. You can't hide from the liability that you've created with this ridiculous software that everybody's using. Billions of people are using software that barely functions. Do you understand the implications of trying to use a software keyboard to dial 911? Is that phone capable of being responsible enough for, calling emergency services? Really? I mean, do you understand the implications of a software keyboard? Your keyboard is not made of buttons anymore. It's made of software. And in order to have screen sensing technology, there has to be software there. And you can probably understand if you've seen some software failures in the past decade. You may understand the problems with having a keyboard that's made of software. See, this is a keyboard. See that? This is not a keyboard. It has a few hardware buttons, and the rest of it is controlled by software, which can fail and does regularly. So smartphones, yeah. There's a reason to have a flip phone. Like, you may want to have one just as a backup, because if your smartphone goes, they cost like $30. It seems like a good investment. A flip phone, ever hear of that? I consider switching to a flip phone and stop using my smart. I consider activating a flip phone and not using this anymore at least once a week because the software barely functions. And I don't care if it's an Android device or an Apple device. They're both similarly pathetic for a series of conflicting reasons. I'm not going to get into it. I think a magnetic reversal is hundreds of thousands of years away, or maybe about 100,000 years away. I think a magnetic reversal is nowhere near something that would happen during our lifetimes based on the geologic record. I think it's nonsense. I think it's fear-mongering, and I think it's pretty sad that people think their viewers are stupid. The idea that the weather cycle is connected to the financial cycle is sort of a legit concern because certain cyclicals, it would make sense, right? Companies that make paper, for example, wouldn't they be affected by warm and hot cycles and rain cycles and things like this? Of course it's affected by that. Those are the deep cyclicals. You know, I was a day trader back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and look, cyclicals are cyclical. That's the thing. Like International Paper used to be Honeywell International Paper. They used to be what we called deep cyclicals. And there's a reason for that. That's all been sort of glossed over because of rampant inflation. There's a whole bunch of overvalued things that are getting undue attention when it comes to the financial markets. There are things that are worth absolutely nothing that are worth a lot of money, right? They have no intrinsic value, but they're worth a lot because they're a speculative asset. They're worth whatever people think they're worth. So if you remember when the tech bubble burst in the late 1990s and early 2000s, when the tech bubble burst, it burst because of valuations. These companies weren't worth what people were paying for the stock. So, you know, if your company is trading at 100 times earnings, the PE ratio is a little too high. I mean, a little too low. So it's all right. It's about time to end this thing. Geez, we're getting tons of comments here. Let me try to get through these. In fact, it's time to take another break. I'm going to put another musical track on here as I endeavor to get the Smash News Network through all the comments because we're getting so many. I have to play another track here and just continue on. This one is going to be a little shorter. This is called Tilt-A-Whirl. I don't know if you can find it anywhere or not. Good luck. Here's full volume. All right, just trying to get through your chats here. Anything I have to respond to, I shall. Yes. Don't make me yell at you on the on the live stream with some stupid comments. By the way, before we continue on, I would like to blame Mr. Eugene Bagashov for all of the woes of planet Earth. Yes. China's currency and mandates and everything that's going wrong. You know, if it wasn't for Mr. Eugene Bagashov, otherwise known as on YouTube, Eugene the Philosopher. Yes, Eugene the Philosopher. Check him out. He's got some philosophies on a lot of philosophies. It's his fault. If it hadn't been for Eugene the Philosopher, Putin would never have invaded the Ukraine. I think Putin actually may have slept over at Eugene's place while he was visiting Minsk. Wait, did Putin even visit Minsk? I'm not sure. I think they might have had a slumber party. They had tickle fights in their socks and things. It was a delight. Seriously though, shout out to Eugene. He was invited to this stream, but he did not respond in time. So screw him! Screw him and his ties to Putin. Eugene, how dare you? Tisk tisk. Shame on you, sir, for being a Putin puppet. That's the kind of thing that's made in China, okay? China. I want a different solar image here. Let's put up the, I don't know what. We're running out of images here. Let's do a browse data instead. Yes, just today in 94 angstroms. It's green like go. And that means go away. Because we're closing out this stream. All right. Sorry, we can't play any Ray Charles. It's probably all owned by a record label, and the video is not getting demonetized. Ever. If it does get demonetized, we will pull it from YouTube, download it, and upload it onto the BitChute page. Yes. All right, so it's definitely time to close this thing out. This has been a little bit lengthier than we originally anticipated. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, leaving comments. Don't forget to tell your friends and foes about the channel. Tell your friends and foes, as we've got something for everybody. Whatever you're mad about, feel free to talk about in the comments. We're not going to delete your comments. We're not going to make your comments invisible or mute you or do any kind of nonsense like that. It's just not a thing. I still think the best idea in response to bad ideas is the best ideas, or at least better ideas. Seems like a simple concept. I don't know why it's so difficult for folks to grasp. Troll McClure says, the X-flare is messing with the time-space, or my clairvoyance. Oh my God. That sounds like something that you really overstand. You don't just understand it, you overstand it. Oh my God, your clairvoyance. SV Thora Sailing asks if I've done Gray Man. Try it. I haven't done any men. I find that repugnant and unappealing. Hunting bunnies out of a ute is easier. Hang off the tailgate and grab the bunnies as you drive. Awesome food source. I'm not going to be trying that. Although if I have a tailgate, I'll be more capable. I don't currently have a tailgate. It's coming. Don't you worry. Jeez. Yeah, keep the comments coming, folks. If you keep commenting, the video may never end. So we could just be on here on YouTube forever. It's possible. Although we are having guests, so we're hoping to not have to force them to come stand in front of my green screen to hang out. Maybe we will. Maybe we will. Geez. Thanks for all the comments, folks. We are getting sufficient comments to cause this stream to go on forever. We'll keep reading and ranting about your comments forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. All right, I have to stop. You do realize that I'm a complete spaz, and I might be able to type a lot faster than you. Just saying. And now I'm letting the comments roll again because we've got a lot. We've got a lot. Make sure you press share, especially if you've stated something that's interesting in the comments. Happy Easter to all of our viewers from around the planet. Please leave us a comment if you're viewing the video from a different timeline, planet, solar system, plane of existence, universe, multiverse, spaceship, solar system, etc. Let us know your location. If you dare. MJ, let me respond to your comment. MJ says, okay, so we had one X flare, but it's not coming to Earth. Can we have 2 more today? Anyone? No. We did have the X flare. It did come to Earth. This is the view from the SDO, so you can't see the X-rays from the surface. However, the photons associated with these X-rays came to Earth 8 minutes after they occurred, approximately. So it takes about 8 minutes for light to get from the sun to the Earth. And so the X flares already came. The SDO is in a figure 8 shaped orbit above parts of North and South America and the Pacific Ocean. So the SDO, right there, you can see when the X flare occurred. Also, we have the GOES 16 and 17 doing measurements of the X-ray flux. The X-rays did come here. So this is an example of the difference between photons and protons. So if you imagine turning on a flashlight, right? See that flashlight? There you go. Here's a demonstration just for YouTube viewers. You see that light right there? Those are photons. Now, you're not going to be able to feel this, but that wind that I just blew there, that was protons. You see the difference? The one is light. The one is solid matter. They're very different. Solar flares are not coronal mass ejections. Coronal mass ejections are protons. Solar flares are photons at X-ray frequency, if that makes sense. The level of a solar flare is the X-ray density. The fact that they are X-rays is a frequency, just like radio waves and infrared light and visible light and ultraviolet light and X-rays and gamma rays and petatrons. Those are all portions of the electromagnetic spectrum. Those are all photons. Protons are what we call solid matter. They contain nuclei. So it's a very different thing. So again, solar flares are photons. Coronal mass ejections are protons. While they're related, they aren't the same thing. And we do prefer people to have sort of a high school physics level of understanding for the channel. I mean, we do regularly explain sort of basic physics concepts, but that's not really my forte. I'm not a high school physics teacher. So, this is a thing that we run into regularly. Yeah, the photons versus protons. Don't get flares and coronal mass ejections confused. Solar flares are photons. Coronal mass ejections are protons. So in order to measure a solar flare, it's already here because we're talking about photons. When you see the flare, that is the flare. It is the photons. Coronal mass ejections are clouds of diffuse gas blowing through space. Hunting feral hogs, that sounds great. I mean, range-fed meats. Oh, man. The ham that we're making today is not range-fed meats. But if it was made from range-fed meats, it would be superior. Vastly superior. We're still stoked about the ham, though. I don't care. Is it cured or uncured, you ask? Well, I'm not at liberty to discuss that. That is a matter of national security. Yeah. Dudes hunting feral hogs makes you reconsider trespassing in Texas. I mean, those things are freaking tasty. Imagine how much bacon and how many pork loin roasts and how many ribs and how many whatever other great cuts there are. I have no idea. I'm not an expert on this. The trick is, when it comes to understanding science, you have to know a little bit more than enough to be dangerous. Right? So when there's something you don't understand, just do some research on it. I mean, use a web search, find out stuff about you realize you can take all of MIT's course. Watch this. I don't even know what the website is, but watch this. I typed in MIT courses free. openlearning.mit.edu. You can literally take any MIT class. So if you haven't taken physics, if you haven't taken astronomy, aerospace engineering classes, it's all there. Just look it up. Basically, their whole curriculum is available online, including the texts, the whole curriculum, the texts, the tests, the notes, lectures, the whole deal. So there's no reason to not know anything. And remember, folks, the root of all knowledge is ignorance. Ignorance is the root of all knowledge. You can't possibly know a thing until after you didn't know the thing. Nobody in their right mind would disagree with that. Which brings me to another interesting point. And if you think I'm exaggerating or kidding about this, ask Eugene Bagashoff about it. Go ahead, ask him. He's a particle physicist. And here's the thing that you may not realize. While I don't believe the universe is electric or that everything's electric, I do believe that the real astrophysics and cosmology are looking more and more like astrology and less like conventional astronomy the more we learn about the way things really interact. So, particles from distant galaxies and stars are absolutely affecting your everyday life. You're an alien, and you are absolutely associated with stuff very far away in space. Are you connected to it? I don't think so. Is there an argument to be made that you are via sort of particles flying through space and eventually interacting with each other? I guess you could say so. But this is a fact. So for all the viewers out there who are viewing our content because of things like cosmology, astrophysics, etc., know this, that all the people who you've been making fun of, all the people who don't know who claim they don't know anything about astrophysics and cosmology. I'm not saying, how do I explain this? I have a nuanced stance on all of this stuff. All right. So because I view all of this stuff from a physics perspective in the first place, there are interactions, right? So if you look up there, the brightest star you see there, that's Alpha Cygni, known as Deneb. It's the tail of the swan. And for some reason, the ancients seem to know something about that particular star. And that's just one of the many aspects of the ways that modern astrophysics and cosmology are starting to look a lot more like astrology. And I just figured I would share that with all of you viewers out there who think you're dummies or whatever, who think you don't know anything about astrophysics and cosmology. You are absolutely invited to sort of get on the cutting edge of these things. And it's not going to cost you anything. You can just take all of these classes for free online and learn all about it. So, and I encourage you to do so. So, once again, let me reiterate that our finest days lie ahead. And however bad it seems right now, things are going to improve vastly. Not just at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news, but probably for you as well. So I know things might seem like they're ridiculous at the moment, but they may not be as bad as you think, because the fact is, folks, most people don't really prefer for all of civilization to be destroyed and undermined. It's kind of an unpopular stance. So I'm going to close this video out with this sort of note of positivity. And I would remind you that I'm not innately positive. I believe myself to be innately a pragmatist. So I don't really care about whether I'm right or wrong. I get ahead of that stuff and then I move on with things because I intend to evolve. And that's because you've got two choices, folks: evolve or die. So once again, our finest days lie ahead. Thanks for tuning into the live stream. Let me attempt to respond to these comments as we've got still more. Yeah, I'm not going to go into the particle physics of what's going on at the moment because it's a little bit too much for this video, which by the way is reported to YouTube as being news and politics. So just trying to sort of have a big picture understanding of things. And so that's why we ranted about so many different things here. Anyway, you're all probably more than aware of all the different sort of facts and appropriate things that we've commented on throughout the video. Thanks, everybody, once again for leaving comments and so on. We've got to close out the stream as there's lots of things to do. There are lots of things to do throughout the day today. Once again, happy Easter. Thanks again for tuning into the channel. Watch today's space weather videos and so on. It's becoming an increasingly interesting cycle when it comes to Solar Cycle 25 and to you showing up as the viewer. So press like, subscribe, share. We'll talk to you soon. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off. Thanks for being such a spaced-out viewer. And let's play one more track to close things out.